On today's show, it's a game day preview. The Ottawa Senators host Vegas for their final regular season meeting this season.
And we have an interview with Graeme Nichols from the Hockey News.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get into the action with a big return on FanDuel. New customers who place a $5 bet will get started with a $150 in bonus bets guaranteed if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today is Thursday, November 21st, and Pilsy, I'm not sure what's going on with Vegas. Not the team, but the line. Ottawa, huge favorites in tonight's game.
And Ross, clearly they missed you talking about the implications of what happens if Vegas gets shut out by the Leafs. I thought that would make them minus 200 favorites because for the second game in a row, the Ottawa Senators will be going up against a Western Conference Stanley Cup contending team that is coming off not the previous game being shut out. So let's hope the Ottawa Senators can stifle the Vegas Golden Knights a little bit better than they were able to stifle the Edmonton Oilers.
It's so frustrating. And just like Edmonton against Montreal that happened on Monday before the Sens played the Oilers on Tuesday, the Vegas Golden Knights outshot the Leafs, outchanced the Leafs. They did everything but score. Oh, yeah, that was a topic of conversation in the national media. Zach Whitecloud's hit on Matthew Nyes. No penalty, no supplementary discipline. So the Ottawa Senators will be taking on a Vegas Golden Knights team that is not only hungry after that, but who also has the confidence of knowing that even if they're down with 5 minutes left against Ottawa, they proved in their first meeting that they can get 2 goals in 60 seconds and still win in regulation. Ottawa's just had trouble with Vegas since they entered the league in 2018. 2-9-2 is the record. However, last year in Ottawa, the Senators did manage to get the victory in a shootout, but again, Vegas tied that game in the last 2 minutes. So this is a 60-minute game, maybe more. You cannot take your foot off the gas for 5 seconds. I don't care who's out of the lineup for Vegas, and they are missing a couple regulars. This team just has an ability to never die.
Ross, the perfect analogy, and this is a Vegas analogy, Sens versus the Vegas Golden Knights. You're in Vegas at the casino playing blackjack. You draw a 20, 2 face cards, jack and a king, and you're feeling good. And then the dealer draws 6 different cards and hits 21. Like, that's what it feels like going up against the Vegas Golden Knights.
All right, tonight's game will feature a couple lineup changes for the Ottawa Senators. One change and one, I guess, just continuing. However, it will be Linus Ullmark who gets the start. He played in Vegas for that game. His stats on the year are not great, and like we've been preaching, give him the keys, let him figure it out. Tonight would be a great night for that. Linus Ullmark so far this season struggled. .884 save percentage, a 2.99 goals against. The goal tonight, Pilsy, is 2 or less. Let's get that goals against average staying below 3. Cannot have it go up into, it's the equivalent of the Mendoza line in baseball, hitting under 200. You don't want that goals against to be over 3. So tonight's a big opportunity for Linus Ullmark, but I think the change that more fans have been clamoring for is Jacob Bernard-Docker will re-enter the lineup in exchange for Travis Hamonic, who's a healthy scratch tonight for the first time this year. Yep. Travis Hamonic is a healthy scratch. What are your thoughts on getting JBD back and what Travis Green believes is just getting him back into a rotation?
I mean, it's about time. And I think Green's quote was fair. He obviously is in favor of having Travis Hamonic in the lineup, but you can't let a young player like JBD sit for too long, especially when he's sitting due to no fault of his own. Like, JBD's been playing the exact role we want from him. In my opinion, he was doing well with Tyler Kleven, even though those are two young NHL defensemen together. Ross, you got your North Dakota sweater on, the NO Sens, get that pair back, and all 4 NO Sens will be in the lineup tonight. That's a rare occurrence as well.
And I wore this before we found out that JBD was in the lineup, because I looked in the closet today and I was like, you know who needs a big game? Jake Sanderson. You know who needs a big game? Shane Pinto. You know who would be nice to see score his first NHL goal? Tyler Kleven. These are all reasons why we put the sweater on, and then boom, we get all 4 NO Sens. Travis Green also mentioned that JBD's performance against Vegas in the first time they met was another reason he was in the lineup. In 13 minutes at 5-on-5 in that game, the shot attempts were 17-9 in favor of the Ottawa Senators. So nice to see JBD back in the lineup. No skate today. It's going to be an off-ice workout. I'm not concerned, although I am raising a bit of an eyebrow at how the Ottawa Senators seem to be ditching the morning skates early on in the season. But that's something where if they win, it's not a story. If they lose, it gets put in my brain for next time. There was no morning skate, or an optional morning skate, I should say, before the first time these two teams met earlier this season. Let's take a look at how we expect the Ottawa Senators to line up in tonight's game. No changes up front are expected. That would mean that the top line remains Josh Norris between Brady Tkachuk and Ridley Gregg. It was a maintenance day yesterday for Brady. He did not skate. However, he is good to go tonight. Tim Stützle will play between Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson. You've got that line of Shane Pinto with Michael Amadio and David Perron. It's Pinto and the Revenge Boys, both Michael Amadio and David Perron, former Vegas Golden Knights. And then you've got Adam Gaudette with another former Golden Knight, Nick Cousins. Hopefully he's wearing the right jersey in the third period with 5 minutes left this game. And then Zach McEwen at right wing. On defense, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot with Nick Jensen, Tyler Kleven with JBD. And I'm glad they clarified that Hamonic's coming out. They didn't just say JBD's playing, because we remember Nick Jensen took that hit into the stanchion against the Oilers, missed a bit of time, came back for the third period. Such a critical piece on the back end, Nick Jensen, the way he's played the start of the season. I'll also be curious to see who plays with who in the first period, if they're going to go back to how it was, or they did move Tyler Kleven with Nick Jensen for a majority of that game against Edmonton. We talked about Linus Ullmark starting in goal. Pilsy, who is your locked on player to watch?
My locked on player is the player we have pictured here. If you're watching on YouTube, it's number 57, David Perron. This is a revenge game for David Perron. He spent just one season in Vegas, but
great season though offensively.
Hell of a season, Ross. Yeah, in 2017-18, in 70 games, he had 16 goals and 50 assists for 66 points, and then played 15 playoff games with them. So this is a guy that I'm hoping, he's got 0 goals, 0 assists on the season. Let's hope a battle up against one of his old teams sparks something and he's able to get that third line going, because they haven't been as good as their potential, in my opinion. So I'm going to be locked on to David Perron.
And that's a great choice. He is the only player that's played games for the Ottawa Senators this year without a point. Even Zach Ostapchuk has an assist. Tyler Kleven, Travis Hamonic, all with 1.0 for David Perron so far this season. You're hoping that that changes tonight. In his career against Vegas, he's got 17 points in 21 games. So maybe he was unhappy with the way that Vegas treats their players on the way out. Obviously, when they're there, everyone talks it's all great, all grade A, but they're obviously very cutthroat with how they remove players from their lineup. So David Perron, great choice. I'm going with his centerman, Shane Pinto. Just 1 goal, 2 assists so far this season. A little surprised at the faceoff numbers as well, only winning 44% of his draws. He's averaging 17 minutes. And what's important about Shane Pinto, we talked about all time, 42, 10, and 6 when Shane Pinto records a point. You zoom that in on this season, they're 3-0-0 when Shane Pinto has a point. So very critical for me that Shane Pinto can add that layer of depth to the Ottawa Senators up front. And tonight would be a great one to see him get on the score sheet for the Ottawa Senators. Here's who they're going up against for the Vegas Golden Knights. Jack Eichel will be centering the top line between a pair of Russians, Ivan Barbashev on the left side and Pavel Dorofiev on the right side. The second line, Nicolas Roy, with Tomasz Hertl and Keegan Colasar. The third line is William Karlsson with Brett Howden and Alexander Holtz, and then Cole Schwindt between Tanner Pearson and Cal Burke at right wing. On defense, Noah Hannafin with Alex Pietrangelo, Shea Theodore with Zach Whitecloud, and Braden McNabb with Keegan Korzak. I think I mixed up the name there. It's Korzak, though, at the bottom pair right side. In goal, it's Ilya Samsonov. If you want a little bit deeper of some lore on the matchup between Samsonov and Linus Ullmark, you can check out the end of yesterday's Locked On Senators. Pilsy, your lookout player to watch for the Vegas Golden Knights.
My lookout player to watch is going to be number 55, Keegan Colasar. He scored the game winner up against the Ottawa Senators last game. So that's a guy, obviously, the Sens are going to be looking out for as well. And typically, he's a bottom six player, but with some of the injuries in the lineup, he's been elevated to that second line, and he's had success, Ross, in 19 games, 5 goals, 4 assists. This is one I want to key in on, though. 60 hits for Colasar. He's tied for 10th in the entire league in hits, so he's going to bring that physicality to that top 6. And he's been a player that this opportunity for him to be elevated in the lineup, he's probably going to smash his season high in points. His season high is 24 points in 2021-22. He's projected to end up with 39 points if he keeps going on this pace. So it's a big year for Colasar, and he's one of those players that when Vegas is in the playoffs, you can tell he is a gamer, and him being in the top 6 could bring some trouble to the Ottawa Senators.
Good Winnipeg boy. He also scored the game-winning goal on a 3-on-2 rush against
Brandon
the Senators.
Boy, though, Ross. You got your Manitoba cities. Shout out Brandon.
Shout out Brandon. The basically feeder team for the Vegas Golden Knights. We know their GM McMillan. No, I've got that one wrong. McCrimmon. Thank you. McCrimmon, formerly owner and GM of the Brandon Wheat Kings. So he knows his guys, and he's got a lot of Manitoba connections. Think Zach Whitecloud, Mark Stone, Brett Howden. The list goes on and on.
Well,
of guys.
Ross, everybody knows all roads to Vegas go through Brandon, Manitoba.
A lot of people say it. Hey, the direct flight from Vegas to Winnipeg helped me out for the NHL draft. My lookout player is Jack Eichel. This season, he is a disher. Only 5 goals. I say only. That's versus what the expectations typically are for the $10 million man. However, 23 assists in 19 games so far for Jack Eichel. That puts him at 28 points in 19 games, 56 shots on goal, and he's averaging 20 minutes and 41 seconds per game. Now, what's scary about Jack Eichel isn't just that he's a Stanley Cup champion, isn't just that he's back to exactly where you'd expect him to be after missing so much time with that neck situation, the trade, everything that he went through personally. He's put to the side. He's found a home in Vegas, and he is an elite talent in the National Hockey League. Against the Senators in his career in 22 games, he has 13 goals and 30 assists. That's 33 points, Pilsy, in 22 games.
Yeah, and Ross, he loves playing the Ottawa Senators. That's the most points he has up against any team in the league in his career.
And he's been in the West for 3 seasons.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's not even particularly close. The next closest up against the Toronto Maple Leafs, he has 24 points in 20 games. So 9 more points than the next closest team. This guy is a certified Sens killer.
And just to correct myself, it's Caden Korzak, because if I disrespect Korzak, he's going to probably score a goal tonight, just like we're expecting Cal Burke, who's never scored an NHL goal. Seems like that's the way it goes sometimes against the Ottawa Senators, who are huge favorites, as I mentioned off the top tonight. At FanDuel, they are minus 164 in tonight's game. Shocking, really.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to see where your money's going to lie, because you talked a big game about hammering the Sens unless Vegas got shut out, and they got shut out.
Looks like it's staying right in my pocket. That's our game day preview. On the other side, we got a fantastic interview with Graeme Nichols from the Hockey News. And then The Athletic has put out their World Junior Championship roster predictions. And I've gotten mad at lists before, and now I'm getting mad at potential fake projected line combinations. Find out more on that later on in the show. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. If you guys want to make your way to the CTC to watch tonight's game, you got to do it with Gametime. They got a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you're not wasting your time searching through thousands of other tickets. Turn on the all-in pricing feature and it will show you what the cost of your tickets are right up front. No surprise fees at checkouts. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee means that Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a lower price, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time.
Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and you can tackle all the action with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need. You open the app, and in the middle of the game, you can view live play-by-play, latest stats, and if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can place your bets on the exact same page. Tonight, the Ottawa Senators, heavy favorites, so I'm looking at the goals. I'm looking at the Ottawa Senators, and I'm looking at David Perron. I'm looking at Shane Pinto to get on the score sheet, and maybe I'll go and do that live bet if the Senators are down one early in this game, if they're showing up, and if Linus Ullmark is making saves. If you get a hunch in the middle of the action, do not chase it. Just go to FanDuel and place your bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, here he is from the Hockey News, Graeme Nichols. All right, we now welcome on a very special guest back to Locked On Senators. You can find his work in the Hockey News and for longer form, the subtext Rome in a Day blog. It's Graeme Nichols. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
Chance, what's going on? How are you?
Good. Fantastic. How long have you been covering the Sens for? Feels like you've been around forever.
God, I think my first blog probably started like 08, 09-ish.
What was it? You remember?
I can't even remember now, man. It's been a long time.
I can't believe they signed Sergei Gonchar.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably something along those lines. Yeah. No, it's been a while.
The trade was fantastic, man. Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. So you're in the mix this year. You're up in the press box. What's the atmosphere like up there?
Vibes are very, very good. Like, I'm not going to speak ill of anyone who preceded the guys who are there now, but the vibes, having Sylvain St. Laurent and Mendes just kind of run points on the media and comms department now is just like, everything is just so accessible, so easy. Like if you have any requests or there's anything that you need, or you have an idea that you want to pitch to them about, hey, I'm thinking about writing this. What do you guys think about that? It's all encouraging, positive feedback. And it's good. Like you got a nice mix of like the old vets, like Bruce Garrick's there, obviously. Brent Wallace is doing his thing. And you kind of have like the old guard, and then you have like your new guys like Alex Adams from Sportsnet. You have Julian McKenzie from The Athletic, obviously. And it's a great kind of mix of old and young. And it's really fun to be around right now. It's a nice mix.
So can you get a sense that there's a culture shift with this franchise? Like not just like the hockey side of it, but from top to bottom, it just seems like a whole different culture.
Yeah, I honestly, Brandon, I think that's like bang on, because like the emphasis that I've heard and seen directly from Ian is like, we want to put the fans first. We want to have like, we want to make, if there's like 25, 30 stories that are going on with the team right now, we want to give 5 to this affiliation, 5 to this affiliation. They've been really good to me. Like this is my first year writing under like a major banner since like writing for The Athletic, but I never had access or full credentials when I wrote there or freelance there. And it's just like they're trying to give everybody like a small piece of the pie, and the whole reasoning behind that is they just want to give fans as much accessibility and opportunity to read as much content across the spectrum as they can. And They've been freaking fantastic with me. I can't thank them enough for the opportunities and access that they've provided me early on. And I had an opportunity to talk to Ian and Salai for a piece that ran earlier this year or this season at the Hockey News, and they waxed poetic about you guys. Loved the content, loved the work. Ian, you just had great things to say about everything you do, and deservedly so, right? Like, you guys have been working your ass off. Like, how long has it been for you guys? Like 4 or 5 years?
We joined Locked On 5 years ago in November 10th. So just past the 5-year anniversary. But when COVID hit, everyone else went quiet, right? All the major publications. And we obviously weren't working as much either. So we're like, hey, this is our time. People still want Sens content. So we're like, how can we be creative? And we decided to go in 6 days a week all through the pandemic. And I think that's how we got our kind of foothold in the market. And today's episode 1168 plus all our post-game shows.
That's insane. But like, it's like for such a short period of time, like the work that you guys have done, not that I like want to spend all this time pumping your tires. Like, you guys do fantastic work, but like,
we'll cut this.
We got lots of time, Graeme.
But like in 4 short years, you've accumulated such a great community. And I find like Dave from Sens Trips kind of like the same way. Like, he started probably around the same time that I did, and like his community, Sens community, is like insane. Like,
his comment section is nuts.
Yeah, it goes on forever. It's incredible.
But doesn't that just show exactly what Ian and Sly are trying to tap into? Because the passion is just everywhere across the market.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was by design from like the predecessors and stuff, but it's like, I don't know if they took the Canadian market for granted, because it's like, all right, we're a Canadian market, we're in Ottawa, hockey should sell itself. We shouldn't have to market this thing like super aggressively. And like, I don't know if budgeting or staffing issues had anything to play with that, but that's not the attitude from the guys who are in charge right now. They're like, people want content, we're going to give them as much content as they want. And that builds relationships with the guys covering the team, builds relationships with the fans, builds relationships between the players, the staff, media, the fans, and everything. It's just an organic growth of the community, and that's what you want to see. They're not taking anything for granted, and like, ultimately, like, it helps sell tickets, right? Like, it's a business. Like, treat it as such, and treat the fans properly, and they're doing that. And I think it's gonna, like, whether or not it has like a ton of profitable impacts right now, doesn't really matter. I think down the road, like, you're gonna see those dividends pay off.
And I think something that I can relate to as well, when I listen to a sports figure or something on a podcast, let's say an NFL one, I'm not a huge football guy. All of a sudden, next time I'm watching a game, I'm looking out for that player because I feel like I know them because they've been on a show in a more relaxed atmosphere. And that's something that Ian and Sly hit on in the article that you posted on the Hockey News, where it's like, these players are taking it upon themselves, where we reach out through their agents or whatnot, and they're happy to come on the show. So why not help facilitate that? It's just a win-win. And we've been seeing that with your work with the Hockey News. What's your favorite storyline, whether you've covered it already or something that you're tracking throughout this season for Ottawa?
So I'm getting a lot of flack about it. Like, I was posting about it this morning, but it's like, everyone's panicked about this whole like November narrative, right? It's
you got the button pills?
Oh, there it is. There you go.
I haven't touched it, for the record. Has not hit it yet.
But it's funny. So like, my thing is like, in the past, like, like if the numbers weren't good, but the record was okay, I'd be like, I would have no problem looking at it in the past and being like, you know what, guys, I think they're kind of outperforming their underlying numbers. And then people would be like, oh, you're an asshole. Like, why are you so negative all the time? And then it's like, today, like this morning, it's just, like, the underlying numbers are pretty good, guys. Like, assuming Allmark rebrands, which is a totally reasonable thing to think about. He's only had, like, historically, he's had good success with the save percentage since like the days of Buffalo through Boston to here in Ottawa. Like, you're talking about a small, like, 10-game sample, and people are losing their minds. And it's like, you know what? There's a good chance he's going to bounce back. He'll be fine. As soon as the goaltending's fine, assuming all the underlying numbers stay the same, this team's in really good shape. They're 1 game below 500. Let's just, like, pump the brakes a little bit, relax. But everyone's like, nope, same problems, same team, last 6 years. And I don't feel like that. I feel like it's a false equivalency. Like, this team is totally different than the ones that played, like, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it's just like this, it's this narrative. And I understand it. Like, I understand the fans' frustration. I understand, like, the young core of this group has been together for such a long time, and they've endured seasons of bad Novembers. I get it. I totally get it. Understand the frustrations, but it's like, just pump the brakes. This could wind up being fine. So just relax. It's only like the first quarter mark. Like, there's still like 3/4 of the season left to play. They could be fine. So just relax a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
As someone that's at the rink a lot, Graeme, what's your assessment of how the management group and the coaching staff is handling this tense situation? Because like you said, their message is, hey, I know our record's not great, but we like the way we're playing despite having a losing record, and we feel like we're doing the right thing. Do you think the management and coaching staff is handling this the right way, or is there a different way that they can pivot or get their message across to fans?
No, like Steve Staios addressed the media after practice, Wednesday, and he essentially echoed many of the same talking points that I was making. Like indirectly, he referenced like their expected goals rate when discussing like their team defense. And I think like if you look back to last season under Jacques Martin, it's like fans were clamoring for this team to start playing the right way. They want to be this defensive team. They can't just run and gun and be a high event hockey team all the time. And they've kind of transitioned to that. But now it's like the offense is taking a hit. They're not getting saves. And those are kind of like more luck dependent. Like people hate that though, right? Like we just need to be a little bit more lucky. You kind of sound like
getting the bounces.
Yeah, we're not getting the bounces. It's like very DJ Smith era-esque, right? So I totally understand why that's not like the fun thing to hear. People want to hear like, hey, we're gonna start making moves, we're gonna start trading guys, shuffling the deck, maybe blow up the core, like that's what people are talking about. And it's just kind of that reactionary live in the moment stuff that kind of plagues social media from time to time. But I totally understand it, and I don't know what people expect management to say, right? It's just they're going to protect their guys, and there's not much that they can do. Like their core is signed long term. The pieces that they've used to support this group were brought in pretty much like this offseason. The team, again, is not really playing that bad in terms of their underlying numbers, but the results aren't there. And I don't know what's left for the group to do other than just like, keep getting the team to play consistently defensively and hope the results change as they should over time.
Hope you're enjoying our conversation with Graeme. We'll get right back to it. But first, Pilsy's got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Yes, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Best part is you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. Check it out today, guys. Prize Picks, run your game.
Puff, puff, pass it over to me. We've got our episode as well brought to you by our friends over at Mary J's. Mary J's is the place to go if you're looking to pick up in Ottawa because they've got the lowest prices, and Mary J's started off with 3 best friends who made a life-changing decision. Just follow your dreams, kids. Through hard work and dedication, they now have 4 stores in Ottawa and a store in Cobourg, plus their flagship store. If you go to Queen's University, if you're in the Kingston area, you can check out their flagship store in Kingston. Mary J's offers the absolute best and newest products in the market with many new additions to the menu every week. Mary J's offer competitive pricing. In fact, forget competitive pricing. How about the best pricing? They will price match any store in Ottawa. That means you're guaranteed the best price at Mary J's. Mary J's also has the best customer service around by having the most friendly bud tenders always ready to assist. Our guy Dashy, what up Dashy? Diehard Sens fan. And if you want to pick his brain about the Sens, we went to his store and he's rocking a Marion Hossa jersey. This guy's all time. So go to one of the stores, say what up to Dashy, and chat about the latest, greatest products at Mary J's. Make sure to get the loyalty card, Mary J's. Friend of the show, it's Mary J's. All right, now back to our conversation with Graeme Nichols.
Now, obviously, the goaltending for the Ottawa Senators has been a tough situation the last couple of years. They go out, they pay the price to get Linus Ullmark, they sign him to the extension before he even plays a game. Are you confident that he's going to figure it out here? Like, is this just a matter of, hey, big switch, big new contract, moving the family to a different country, new teammates, all these sorts of things? What's your confidence level that Ullmark is going to figure it out this season?
I think the confidence has to be high, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
what's the alternative? But I think there is a bit of like added context to that too, right? Like he was incredibly sharp in that first game against Florida. He stole that game, and everyone, was chanting his name at the end of the game. He's interviewed afterwards by Claire Hanna, and it's a big moment for him. And he plays against Montreal right, and then he gets injured right away. And he hasn't really played many consecutive games after that, and it's taken a while to build himself back up. So I like. Between the inconsistencies, the injury, and everything else, I think like there is context. We're talking about a small sample size of games where, again, like he has proven himself over time to be able to post good numbers, even on bad teams like in Buffalo. So I think the team's defending well enough to do well. And if he can eliminate some of those soft goals that he's given up over the past while, I think we'll be fine.
I'm already getting old receipts pulled on me. In June 25th, I tweeted out saying that if Ullmark sucks in Ottawa, it's a Senators problem, not a Linus Ullmark problem. So clearly I've got confidence, but now I'm already getting the old takes exposed. Habs fans found that tweet yesterday, but I'm with you. Now, one thing I've been preaching for is giving them the keys and saying, this is your net. Do you run him the rest of this homestand no matter what, or do you like this tandem situation they have with Forsberg?
So that was kind of like one of the discussions of practice between the media members, like on Wednesday. And what do you do? Do you go back to Forsberg because Ullmark didn't give you a strong game last game? If Forsberg gives you the best opportunity to win, don't you have to play him? Ultimately what matters is this a confidence issue? Is this a nagging injury that still hasn't really healed itself issue? Like without knowing that, it's hard to really break down other than who gives you the best chance to win now. And I think that's probably Anton Forsberg.
Yeah, you're right. But I just think that
I know.
You gotta get him going. But then it's not like he's been a starter 55, 60 games consistently. So he's been a tandem guy. So I see both sides of it. It is a fascinating discussion too. I know, Pilsy, you're more on the side of the tandem, hey?
Yeah, I just think like you look at teams that have that bona fide number one starter, and sure, I think they're great in the regular season, but then they seem like they're burnt out by the playoffs. I mean, the perfect example, Ross, is in your backyard in Winnipeg. Hellebuck, best goalie in the league in the regular season, plays 60 plus games, and then the playoffs come, and it seems like he's not able to kind of keep that pace going. So I think sometimes the tandem can work, but I mean, tandem, number one starter, backup playing most of the games. I'll take whatever result or whatever process we need to get the result to get to the playoffs.
It's like Travis Green saying his favorite goalies are the ones that stop the puck. Graeme, what's it been like sitting in press conferences with Travis Green? What's your take on him so far?
I'm afraid that's a stupid question. He's got a tendency where if you ask a question, he kind of just like he gives you like a little head tilt and a smirk, and you're like, oh shit. but he's been good. Like if you ask good questions, he'll give you strong answers. But he is like very short, and you can tell that the vibe that I get from him is that talking to the media is not his favorite thing in the world to do.
I'd love to have some beers with him, though.
No, exactly. I think he's probably the kind of guy who would open up a lot if you had an opportunity for like a one-on-one off the record. But yeah, he's been fine. Like if you ask him something and it's totally fair, he'll give you a good answer. Normally.
I love the question he got the other day saying, you guys have been scored on first a few games in a row. Like, how do you fix that? And he's just like, score earlier.
Yeah.
Just dry. He had to clarify.
Yeah, exactly. He has to say, yeah, that was a joke, guys. And everyone's just like, everyone's afraid to like react around him. Yeah. it's been fun. It's been interesting. Like Wayne Scanlon, who hasn't been around the team that much this year, same thing. He showed up to one of his availabilities like last week, and he's just like, so how was Travis in the availabilities? I'm like, if you ask good questions, he's fine, but he can be very short and matter of fact, and like wants to get out of there as quickly as possible. And then I think his availability might have lasted like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then Wayne just turns around afterwards and just goes, oh.
That's how. Hey, Jacques was unbelievable though last spring. Like there were a couple of games he just came in giggling. I feel like it was a nice reset kind of for everything that had gone on, and now here we are, 3 games into the season. We were declaring Jake Sanderson Norris favorite, 4 Nations, Team USA. Do you think that pressure might have gotten to him, or maybe the kind of hype around him? Because I don't know if it does kind of translate to his time with Hamonic, but now since Zub's been back, it's still been a struggle for him at 5-on-5. Where are you at with Jake Sanderson's game?
Yeah, I feel like the Zub injury might have compounded some stuff. Like he obviously got the toughest matchups. I don't want to slag Travis Hamonic like publicly or anything like that. But I mean, like I feel like he's analytically like the worst, statistically he's the worst defenseman on the whole team. And he had to carry him for a little bit. And that's not easy, as we've seen in the past. Like Travis Hamonic has a tendency to be an anchor on whatever pairing he plays with. And that's not an easy partner to play with when that's happening. And like, I thought his first, I agree with you completely. Like, I feel like his first handful of games, he was like phenomenal. It's just both ends of the ice, like shutting out chances, going the other way in transition. And now it's like, you're seeing mistakes and mental mistakes that you're not really accustomed to seeing from him. Like easy passes. Like there was a pass on the power play the other night where I think he tried to pass it to like Tim Stützle at like the top of the circle. And it's just like, it's out of his reach. It goes back to Edmonton. They cleared the zone right away. And you're like, those unforced error turnovers, like you're just
him ditching the zone on the 4-1 goal last night. Like he was just gone. Yeah,
it's stuff that you're not really accustomed to seeing. But like I think he came in a preseason with a lot of swagger. Like if you had the opportunity to talk to him and just shoot the breeze with him, like he felt comfortable. He knew like defensive game, he's like, I'm locked in. I know exactly what I am as an NHL player. I know how to handle myself defensively. I want to like focus on the offensive side of things and improve my numbers there. I think that is the avenue I can really expand my game. And you could tell like he was comfortable in his own skin. He was very confident in who he was as a player. And it's just, to see that kind of like hiccup shortly into the season, it's been a rough spell. But I mean, like it's a long season. Guys go through lulls all the time, and hopefully something he can work himself out of right away.
Yeah, and I think the most concerning thing is Sens fans had such confidence, rightfully so, in the Sanderson-Zub pairing. Like we talked about, don't put it in pen or permanent marker, chisel that in stone, because that's easily your number one shutdown pair. And then you look at Chabot and Jensen, who have been really great. Finally, the Sens have found a guy since Dylan DeMello that's a great partner for Thomas Chabot. And then the fourth pair, Clevens, really turned things around. Hamonic or JBD, I think, can work there. But Graeme, do you think there might be an opportunity to try to mix up the D pairs just to get something going from Sanderson here? Or are you more of the mind, we've seen a sample size of Sanderson and Zub. We know they can figure it out, and we don't really want to mess with the rest of the chemistry of the D pair, so let's just leave it.
Yeah, that's a great question. But we've seen it up front, right? Like he shook up Stützle and Norris, right? And all of a sudden it's like all of a sudden Josh Norris's game reached another level. So yeah, like they did that last game. They kind of broke up the pairings a little bit, and I don't know if it'll continue. Like at practice on Wednesday, they've reverted back to their old pairing. So I don't know if it's something that they'll continue, but it's certainly like Travis Green's gone on the record before. He says like if guys need a shakeup, like he's not going to hesitate to make that move. So I think it's definitely something that could be something that they do quite frequently.
One of the other things, and final question for me, Graeme, really appreciate your time. This has been great insight. Everyone's already following you online at Graeme Nichols on Twitter, formerly the Sixth Sens. Am I right?
Yeah, buddy.
What was with the change on that?
It's just a pivot. I think it's just more opportunity for just writing for other affiliates. I just thought it was an opportunity just to like get that name, like use my actual real name online as opposed to just using a handle. I think it makes it a little bit easier just from a writing standpoint. Just be like, okay, this is my profile. Here you go. But yeah. Anyways, something different.
No, that wasn't my final question. That is a good insight, though. I always like this discussion. Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk. Start the year together, play 10 games together. You mentioned the switch did spark them. Are you of the mind that your two best players should play together, or do you like spreading it out throughout the offense?
I think it depends on the game situation, maybe. Maybe that's the best way. Like if they're chasing the score, I think putting them together is not a bad way to do it. Similar to like what the pizza line was back in 2005, 2006, 2007. But yeah, like I like the fact that they're trying to get Josh Norris going. I think that's a contracting guy that you've committed a lot of tournament money to, and I think you need to get him going. And I think playing like a straight line game and having him play with Brady Tkachuk, you can control the puck down low in the offensive zone, draw guys to him, and then create space for Josh Norris on his shots. Probably the best thing for him. And I think like Timmy, I think this is like the most dynamic I've ever seen Tim Stützle play in like all areas of the ice. He's controlling and driving play, and like I think Brady Tkachuk on a line of his own is a play driver, and to have those two guys on separate lines is the key. Maybe offensively for this group in the top six. So I I don't mind them playing together certain times, but I think like for the team's like success in the short, near, medium term, it's just split them up a little bit and let them run.
I know it's a little bit different because Edmonton's obviously their two natural centers, but they got shut out against Montreal, and all of a sudden, Draisaitl moves to the wing, and look what happens. They each have 3 points against Ottawa.
No, exactly.
How sick is it watching those guys live though? Like
I wasn't there last night. I was working
man.
I was working my other job last night, so
Yeah.
I wasn't there. But I had friends who were there, and they're like, "Oh man, it's too bad the Sens lost." I'm like, "Yeah, but you got to see Draisaitl and McDavid score, so like your tickets, like you got your money's worth, right?" So and Stützle scored as well, so
yeah,
you got your money's worth.
A final question for me is: it seems like the Ottawa Senators always have some sort of weird scheduling thing in their season, whether it's going to Europe, what have you. And this year, it's the World Juniors coming to Ottawa. Obviously, that's great for the city of Ottawa, and we're stoked about it. But what it does is it puts the Ottawa Senators on a very long road trip in December. Graeme, how crucial is that road trip to the season of the Ottawa Senators, especially when Sens fans, we know about the November scaries, but the fear of playing on the road and the road record from last year is a big concern for Sens fans. How crucial will that stretch be for the success of this season?
Well, it puts a lot of pressure on them to win all their home games at the beginning of the month, right?
Yeah.
Like I think they play 5. I think it's 5 home games at the beginning of the month. So like against like not really reputable opponents. Like I think it's like Detroit, Nashville, Anaheim, and I can't remember the others. But it puts a lot of pressure on them to win early, and then if they get off that, if they get that momentum and everything else, I think they'll set themselves up well. And I think like listening to David Perron speak when he just recently returned from his child's birth and the health complications that came with that. When he returned, he talked about like he hasn't really had an opportunity to bond, hang out with the guys. And like I think if you build some momentum into that trip, and then you have this 2-week time slot to like really come together as a group on the road, it could wind up just forging some awesome relationships and bonds and carrying that momentum through. And I think like being away it could really bolster the situation a little bit.
Graeme, what are you working on right now? What can fans expect to see at the Hockey News coming up?
I think I have a one-on-one with Brady Tkachuk at the end of the week. So that could be, so that could be interesting. I think I'm talking to Cyril Leader tomorrow at the rink. So nice. There's a few things I'm working on that should be exciting. But Brady's obviously like the most high-profile guy that I've had a chance to like sit down with. So
I'm praying for a win for you tomorrow.
Yeah,
me too, Friday.
Me too, me too. But there should be tons to talk about, and then there's always stuff happening at the rink with the guys. So yeah,
awesome. Well, you can find Graeme's work over at the Hockey News. Graeme, we appreciate you being a guest on the show, and we look forward to doing this again down the road.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you having me on today.
All right, Pilsy. So it's an Ottawa Senators game day, 7 o'clock start. Make sure to check out the postcast after the game. And the best place to tune into the postcast is on the GLEBE Central Pub shuttle back to the pub. They take you away from the pub an hour and 15 minutes before the game. Make sure you get there on time and right back to the pub afterwards. You can buy your tickets at GLEBECentralPub.com. We love our friends there at the GCP. We will see you in the postcast. But first, Pilsy, all these good vibes. And look, we love Mark Stone. Great player. Looks like he's not going to play tonight. And frankly, I'm not upset about it. Mark Stone had 2 assists against the Senators earlier on this season. And since being traded, the former 6th round pick in the 2010 draft has 11 points in 6 games against Ottawa.
And Ross, in 13 games this year, he has 21 points. So in 13 games, he would be second on the team in points and only 1 point behind the team leader in Tim Stützle with 22. Oh.
Wow, what a player.
Yeah.
Now looking ahead at the future, look, the World Juniors in Ottawa this year. We love the World Juniors every year, but the Athletic did their mock rosters. Can you believe it? Little World Junior lore from the last time in Ottawa, Jordan Eberle's goal. But this time around, the Athletic has 0 Sens prospects going to this tournament. They say that Carter Yakimchuk was their final cut on their Team Canada roster. That's only bringing, in their mind, 2 right shot defensemen. 2.
Yeah, I think I am still very confident that Carter Yakimchuk is going to make Team Canada. He adds an element that some of the other defensemen don't add, the physicality, obviously the dynamic play on the power play, all those kinds of things. But yeah, Ross, this was tough. Reading through the Athletic article and being like, we are an Ottawa Senators fan base that hasn't made the playoffs in 7 years. We're hosting the World Juniors, and we don't have a single prospect projected to be in that tournament. I mean, they didn't do a projection of Kazakhstan, though. Our guy, Nikitin, will most likely be there.
No, yeah, we will have one. Nikitin will be at that tournament.
Imagine the crown jewel of our World Junior viewing is Kazakhstan's goalie. That simply is not good enough. I mean, obviously, this team has traded away a lot of draft picks in DeBrincat, in Chikrin, trying to bolster the NHL roster, but it also goes to show that the drafting of high-end talent has not been up to par. I mean, look at this. Is this a Team Canada projected roster, Ross, or the Philadelphia Flyers prospect pipeline?
Yeah, no doubt. 4 Philadelphia Flyers prospects projected. We pulled it up on YouTube. You can see the explanations at The Athletic. They do great work there. And look, I still think he makes this team. In the summer showcase, he was paired exclusively with Tanner Molendyk, who will be a returnee. I'm not sure if he played last year, but he is a 19-year-old. He's going to be on this team. They also have 4 left shot defensemen. And not only that, they've got a 17-year-old Matthew Schaefer, draft eligible this year, on their roster. I believe that Sam Dickinson, left shot defenseman, will play on the left side and that Yakimchuk will be there. Basically, they're saying it's either him or Parekh or Yakimchuk, because they're both that offenseman style, right shot defenseman. Obviously, Oliver Bonk, good Ottawa boy, born and bred Sens fan. He's going to run the first power play unit, and it's like, okay, or maybe the second, and then you're going to have one of Parekh or Yakimchuk. They figured that it was just too much of the same. However, look, and also Saginaw Spirit's coach is going to be an assistant for Team Canada. So that's where maybe they lean towards Parekh, but the physicality to me is where you have to really consider Yakimchuk. I mean, the guy didn't just lead the Senators, defenseman, didn't just lead the Senators. He led the entire National Hockey League in preseason points. Like, Yakimchuk has to be on this team. And maybe that's our bias showing, but look, the last 2 times the Ottawa Senators had an offensive-minded defenseman in the World Juniors, one of them won MVP. In Thomas Chabot, the only defenseman to ever win MVP at the World Juniors, ever. And the other time, in Ottawa, a young Erik Karlsson won best defenseman in the tournament. To me, it's a no-brainer. And Hockey Canada better wake up and have Carter Yakimchuk on their team.
If Yakimchuk doesn't make this team, we riot. Simple as that.
Okay, you heard it from Pilsy. Get your pitchforks out, but not yet, because the team will not be announced until just before Christmas. So that's something to follow, though, because we thought he was a shoo-in. Looks like there are people who believe that Yakimchuk might be on the outside looking in. And if you look at the stats, pretty comparable between Parekh, who plays on the best team in the Ontario Hockey League, and Yakimchuk, who plays for a mid-team in the WHL in Calgary. I think he's going to be on the team, and time will tell. No Gabriel Eliasson on Scott Wheeler's projected, and it's not just Scott, it's Scott, Corey Prodman, and Max Boltman, I believe, of The Athletic, who collaborated for this piece. So we will see. Also, final thoughts from me, Pilsy. And this is brought up in 32 Thoughts. So the most reputable blog going online, Elliot Friedman.
Okay.
Joey Decord's never played internationally. He wonders if Team Canada calls him for the 4 Nations. We talk about them needing a goalie. His dad's entire side of the family is from Canada.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, he's American.
He's got Canadian citizenship. Could Joey Dax be the starting goalie for Team Canada? And this is our guy, Tim Whalen.
Wow.
Pass this over to me.
Interesting.
Hockey Central hosts Matt Marchese and Mike Fuda asked if U.S.-born Joey Decord could play for Canada. His father is Canadian. His mother's Swiss. And that country is asked about his Olympic availability. Nothing yet from Canada, though. So something to keep our eye on going forward, because obviously he's a friend of the show and a great guy and an even better goalie.
Oh, man. That would be so much fun if that happened. I mean, there is no clear-cut goalie for Canada. Like not even talking about starter, like just to be on the team. I don't think anyone has an idea.
Yeah, I think Jordan Binnington probably makes the team as one of the three guys. The other guy who's kind of come out of nowhere, former Vegas Golden Knight, Logan Thompson's off to an unreal start with Washington.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's 8-0-1.
Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know what's going to happen there, but Joey Dax, that's I like that. That's a dark horse, a wild card there.
Any final thoughts on today's show, Pilsy?
Nope, I'm good. Let's head to tonight's game and let's figure out this Vegas curse.
Yeah, right. 1-0 in their last one home game against Vegas.
Love it. Keep it rolling.
All right. We'll see you on the postcast after tonight's game. It'll be me and Martian on the postcast. Pilsy will be back tomorrow for more on a Friday edition of the show where the Senators will be going up against the Canucks on Saturday, the Flames on Monday. That Flames game is only on Amazon. And the host on Amazon, Andy Petrillo, will be with us. So we look forward to that. Enjoy the game tonight. If you're going to the CTC, make sure we get those boots on the ground picks. You can find more from us on Twitter at Sens Central, Instagram lockedon.senators. For today, we say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.